everyone, it's Shane Conto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew podcasting network. And this is my weekly show where my collaborator, my guest, picks a film, and then I pick another film related in some shape or form. And we found an interesting pairing of folk music films this week, and joining me is our fearless leader of the SPDM Crew podcasting network, and it's Mike Hilty.
Shane, good to see you. Appreciate you having me on and indulging me in this weird pick so that I could talk about music related things in honor of Wicked, I guess. So let's do this.
Yes, these both definitely exude the feeling that you'll get watching Wicked, which is a fantasy musical in the biggest sense. And here we're
Obviously.
going to be talking about Once from 2006 and also A Mighty Wind from Christopher Guest. So let's get started with this. Once is written and directed by John Carney, who has a really good track record of making emotional, impactful films about music. I'm a huge fan of Sing Street, like humongous fan of Sing Street. So
Mhm.
I was excited to rewatch Once, and this film is a modern day musical about a busker and an immigrant and their eventful week in Dublin as they write, rehearse, and record songs that tell their love story. So, Mike, what were your thoughts on Once?
The best way that I could describe this movie is that it is just delightful.
It is the
I enjoyed this so much upon rewatch. It's been such a long time
Mm,
since I've seen this movie. And what I walked away from with this movie is that the everything about this movie just feels so authentic in a way that we don't get movies that often. It's filmed
mhm.
in a very interesting way.
Yes.
Like it feels like it's just filmed from like a camcorder,
Yep.
and it just feels very like the dialogue doesn't feel scripty or anything like that. A lot of the dialogue feels improvised or just feels
Yep.
very natural. And the chemistry between our two main characters is just off the charts. And there's a small part of you that's like, will they, won't they? And then, after a while you're just like, you know what? I'm okay if they don't end up together because what they create together is just so amazingly beautiful. And the first scene where they're just playing the piano in the store together and then they both start singing and I want my kids to look at somebody else the way that he looks at her when she's first playing the piano. It's
Yeah.
just so endearing and it's just so lovely.
Absolutely. And I think the first time I watched this was in my film club in college.
Mhm.
And like at that point, like I love music and I've been on your podcast about music.
Mhm.
Folk music is not exactly like my thing. I am a fan of like I'll listen to some Bob Dylan. I was listening to some of the Hurricane on
Mhm.
my way home from work tonight. And then there's like that fine line between like folk music and like soft rock music, like a Jim Croce. I'm a big fan of Jim Croce and
Right.
stuff like that. But like John Carney has such a passion for music and
Mhm.
understands musicians and understands the artist. And this film is so stripped down and it's so authentic and honest about the journey of these two people who've come into each other's lives. And Glenn Hansard and Marketa Erglova have such great chemistry together. And like they're simply guy and girl.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
this film is stripped down. It's like you said with the camcorder thing, it's very like documentarian in
Mhm.
terms of how it's approaching and like quote unquote like it looks aged since 2006, but
It does.
it's
Yeah.
one of those kinds of things where you feel like you are watching an old home video of something honestly very beautiful.
It
And
is.
the music
Oh, the music is off the
is
charts.
so good. And just them singing together, them performing together, and just the energy that goes into it. Like, I remember when this was making such a big deal at the Oscars, because like on and off watched the Oscars probably since like 2000. So like I distinctly remember watching the Oscars in like early 2004 when like Return of the King just came in there and just swept.
Just everything, yeah.
Went 11 for 11. Should have been 12 for 12. The fact that that didn't even get nominated for cinematography. But I won't get into that. But this film, I remember them performing the music at the Oscars and how much attention it got. And it's just so beautiful. And just there is something that feels very real about it. In the
Mhm.
same way that like you watch a Richard Linklater like hanging out kind of film, that it just feels like these aren't characters in a movie, these are real people.
Yeah.
And if you were to tell me that this was actually like a documentary,
I believe it.
I
Yeah.
believe it. I'd
Yeah.
100% believe it. And there's, fun moments where like that it's not fun that he got his stuff stolen from him at the very beginning, but the chase that ensued
Mhm.
and then like how it resolved itself. It's just like the guy like got gassed because like
Mhm.
he obviously smokes too much.
Right.
Stuff like that. Like scenes like that thrown in there. And like I have a friend, Alex, who used to busk a lot. He's a musician, so and I remember him telling like that's the only reason I know what busking means. It's my buddy Alex.
Mm.
But this film is just such a special and tender kind of film. And I don't throw that word around often when talking about movies, but there's something tender
Yeah.
about this.
So there's kind of like three layers of tenderness per se,
Mhm,
or technically four if you include just it starts out with guy and girl and then subsequently morphs into their pseudo band
yeah.
about their relationship with music and just what music has meant to all of them in terms of it's a primary form of expression for them.
Mhm,
It like particularly about love, about pain, about heartbreak, about happiness and unhappiness, all those different things you express through your music. But
mhm,
then you have the relationship between guy and girl. But I think one thing that I think stands out that may not get as much attention, particularly, is both of their relationships with their parents as well.
mhm,
So Guy's relationship with his dad is kind of something that stood out to me upon
mhm,
rewatch of this, is that you don't realize how nice, like how good of a relationship they have until kind of like the very end when he's kind of like pushing him to get to London.
mhm.
Like that part at the end where he's like, your mom would be proud of you. I'm like, no, no.
That's one of those
Damn
moments
it.
where you're just like, movie, what's wrong with you? Why are you
But
making me feel these things?
but then but then girl and her mom and
Mhm,
just kind of learning more about a little bit about their story and how they ended up in Dublin.
mhm,
And that relationship too, I definitely noticed. Maybe it's my parent radar, but I don't know. I noticed that a lot more upon rewatch this time around.
and it's like I think the added layer of like this being an immigrant story too,
Mhm.
and it's like we live in the United States, the two of
Yeah.
us, and the our relationship with immigrants in modern sense is complicated
Yeah.
because a lot of immigrants get vilified at this
Yes.
point in our country. And the thing is, it's like there's a lot of hate towards immigrants in a lot of other like well-developed countries too, and like Europe in particular. Apparently, France like is like hates immigrants as like a culture and stuff like that. But like just that story of like because they each have their own unique struggle.
Mhm.
Because I was trying to make a life of this, and he's struggling. He's on the struggle bus in terms of making ends meet, and you just see this relationship that he develops with this woman, and their music that they're able to create, the connection they're able to have. It's just such a powerful thing, and how it manifests in music. And that's the power of music is that it can represent something so deeply personal And it's a way to channel those emotions. And that's the tricky thing. Like, this is not like your perfect fairy tale kind of romance.
No, no. But are they ever really? In a lot of cases,
Oh, in real life, no. And
they're
that's what
not.
makes this so authentic and
Mhm.
real. And that's what I appreciate about it.
I think I remember the first time watching this, I wasn't a huge fan of the ending. I don't know.
Mhm.
I just thought that if this is how this is going to end up, especially once you kind of realize like after their motorcycle ride and the conversation that they had where she reveals that she's got a husband and they're talking and he said or he asked her like, do you still love him in Czech? And then she says something back and she refuses to translate. It's like, but all of us savvy enough to be like, what does that mean? What does that mean? And then you're like, oh, this changes everything. And then for it to still end up the way that it did, where he doesn't even get to say a proper goodbye to her at all. And
I just
he
thought of a terrible joke, Mike. It was an Irish goodbye. Yep.
well played. Well played,
Yep.
good sir.
Well
But
played, John Carney. Well played.
the like upon rewatch of this, to me, it just like you said, like the word that we keep tossing around is authentic. And
Yep.
sometimes it just it's just not meant to be, and that's
Mhm.
okay. But if you look back at the situation and still take something away from it, like I love that he still gets her the piano and he
Mhm.
gets it delivered to her, and it's just like one last thing that he can just leave her as a way to be like, remember our time together and remember that you're an extremely talented musician. So just keep playing that music and you'll be in good shape.
Well, and it's very interesting too that you brought up like thinking about like you didn't like the ending the first time. And I know I'm a very different person than I
Yes.
was when I watched this the first time. Because, like, if I'm not mistaken, I watched this probably my freshman or sophomore year of college in film club. And to be frank, I had never kissed anyone, had
Hmm.
never been in a relationship before at that point. Like, I was this, like, pining after kind of like, I want something magical to happen that's going to click and have something. It's
Got
not
it.
that. And, you know, almost 33-year-old grizzled Shane with many more gray hairs and everything. It's just, I think who, like, I definitely know who I am now. And I'm romantic in the relationship. I'm not romantic in my perspective on relationships. And what I mean by that, like, I don't really believe in the one.
Mm.
There's just too many people in the world that you can be happy with. But I choose to be with my wife, who I love very much.
Hmm.
And I think that's a powerful thing,
It's
that choice.
it is a powerful thing because the one like this concept of like soulmates in the
Mhm.
conventional sense
Yeah.
is that you have two people that are just so perfect for each other that it kind of robs you of the fact that you have to work in your relationship. You have to constantly,
Yeah.
grow together. You have to evolve and things are going to change inevitably. So how do you figure out how to just continue to keep your relationship strong? And it's hard. It's
Mhm.
really hard. And though like this whole concept of soulmates that you're just meant to be with like one person in particular, you're right, there's just way too many people in the world out there. Like maybe you could have like a soulmate per like continent, maybe, but like
Well,
one person out there, yeah, that's a
Well,
tough one.
and literally, there has to be somebody who is the best fit for you.
Sure.
But there's plenty of other people that are be great fits for you, and you can have a very happy life with. But I think the thing that I've matured the most about and appreciate most about this film is that there will be people who serve a very specific purpose in your life for a short amount of time. And finding the appreciation in the impact that that person made in your life, even if it was a short time, how they made you feel, what they made you feel. And I feel like this film is that
Mhm.
once.
Yeah.
They had each other this once and what it meant to them and what they were able to create that
Mhm.
made it a lasting feeling
Mhm.
that they'll be able to think about that music for the rest of their lives. And I think that's something poetic and beautiful about this film. Oh, this
Yeah.
just hits.
It's such a just such a beautiful story, and I love that the way that you put that is the impact that you can have on somebody for a short amount of time, and it's you all you have left after that are your memories and just anything
Mhm.
like that's tangible. In this case, they have like an album together
Yeah.
that they cut that was fantastic. Like one of my favorite parts of this movie is when they first start recording in the recording studio and the engineer is like, these guys? Like, really? And he's like, I can't believe I'm here right now. And then he starts listening and then he starts to perk up and he starts getting on the soundboard and he was like, well, shit.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. And that to me is just the perfect encapsulation of what this music that these two people created, the effect that it had on one individual person. And to think that it could have that effect on other type of people out there as well. Because not only is the music beautiful, but the lyrics in that they all hit in a way that everybody, even if you've never directly been in love,
Mhm.
you've been in a situation where you love somebody and maybe they don't reciprocate back, or
Yeah.
maybe it's just that feeling of longing and just the lyrics just they're perfectly written and they're just hauntingly beautiful the way that they're sung.
It's just this music lasts with you long
Mhm.
after this movie is over. And that's the point.
Yeah,
Like beautiful music and music that can make an impact will last with you forever. Like
ab-
there
absolutely.
there's a few songs that like deeply resonate with me, and it's a thing between my wife and I. Anytime that Time in a Bottle comes on,
Mm.
I will sing that to my wife because a
Very
lot of
nice.
that's like that is 2 minutes that is hauntingly beautiful and has such powerful lyrics and everything. But this film just has so much power in what it's able to do in an hour and 26 minutes.
It's
Like
short.
it's
It's
a
short,
short.
but they make the most of their time and nothing, no time is wasted per se. All like everything in this movie matters to some extent or another, and I adore that. I love that.
Me too. I do own this, and I've watched this, and it kind of made me like, I'm probably gonna watch this a lot sooner than the last time it took me to circle back
Mhm.
around and watch this movie. Well, Mike, are you ready for something completely different?
And now for something completely
Completely
different.
different.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is 2003's A Mighty Wind, and a mockumentary captures the reunion of 1960s folk trio, the Folksmen, as they prepare for a show at the town hall to memorialize a recently deceased concert promoter. And this is from director Christopher Guest, who co-wrote this film with Eugene Levy, who also stars in this. And just, I love the Christopher Guest crew.
Yeah.
They're just such an amazing group of comedians and everything. But Mike, was this your first time watching this?
Maybe I think because I know I've seen Best in Show and I
Mhm.
know I've seen Spinal Tap, but I don't think I've ever seen this one all the way through.
Okay. So, what were your thoughts?
Boy, this is just so wonderfully weird, and I love that all of the people in this is just the best of the best when it comes to character actors and
Yes.
bit parts. The crew that they've assembled for all of these movies is just fantastic. I
Mhm.
love it because in reality, there is no like real main character. It's
Mhm.
just the ensemble. They're the
Yep.
main character. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Broken Lizard guys. Like
Mhm.
there's no like real main character. It's just them as a group. They're the main character. And what I appreciate about this is that you can mix and match all the different people in here,
Mhm.
and they have amazing comedic timing and chemistry with one another, but they also there's just some genuinely weird moments in here, but it's still so funny and just so ridiculous. And the music in this is great. Like you're talking about, and I fully agree, folk music is not my thing.
Yeah.
And I I shouldn't say it's not my thing, because what I've been saying on the music podcast,
Mhm.
check it out on SPDM Crew, that I I just need to find the entry point for a
Yep.
lot of these artists that I'm not like a huge fan of. And it's the same thing that's true with folk music. I just need to find the entry point. And a lot of these folk songs, and they're just they're so smooth and they're so fun.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I'm a huge Christopher Guest fan, and this whole mockumentary thing, waiting for Guffman, best in show of the ones that Christopher Guest has directed is the best. Like that is like his crown jewel
Mhm.
of the formula to make this extremely awkward and unbelievably hilarious documentary. I still think Spinal Tap's the best of all of these, but that's Rob Reiner directed. The fact that
Oh yeah.
they got Spinal Tap to be the folksman,
Yeah.
because I just love the trio of Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer. They're
Hmm.
just so much fun together. I am a humongous fan of Michael McKean ever since Clue.
Mm.
I didn't do it, Mr. Green, and then he blew me away on Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
And he had such a great one episode arc in like The Good Place, and just he's so great. Christopher Guest is just a magician of like
Yes.
disappearing into weird characters. His owner of the Bloodhound, you got Pine Nuts, and just like that whole character in that. But I think the real MVP of these is Eugene Levy.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And the fact that like all I knew him as was Jim's dad, Noah Levenstein, in the American Pie movies, and then watching Schitt's Creek and then watching all of these, it's just amazing seeing him. And here he's Mitch, and he
It's
has his soul patch, and he's so uncomfortably awkward.
well, and it's so funny because when when you first learn about Mitch and Mickey as a duo, you think that Mitch is this, or at least I did, because, I don't know, like I just did. I thought that he was going to be this like super smooth, just almost like a pseudo rock star in a way.
Um,
And then as soon as Eugene Levy opens his voice, it's like, nope, I am completely wrong. And it's just so funny that Eugene Levy just, when he commits to something, he commits. And he was one of my favorite parts on this most recent season of Only Murders in the Building. Just
I could watch
unexpectedly,
him and Steve Martin together for
just
forever.
unexpectedly delightful. And this also just continues to lay down the foundation for what would eventually become Schitt's Creek, because him and Catherine O'Hara just
So
they're
good.
they're just so great together. And for Catherine O'Hara for this, just a super toned down part.
Yes.
Not, you know, she's she
She's no
might be the
Moira Rose in this.
no, no, she's not. And that's okay. She is
Yeah.
exactly what she needed, or she needed to be for this role. And but that is the beauty of all the actors and performers
Mm.
in this group, is that they are all chameleons. They're all Swiss Army knives. They all
Yes.
know that what do you need me to do? Cool. I'll, just give me some time, I'll figure it out. We'll do it. And they're also nimble in their ways that they can work off of one another and just be funny together as
Funny.
well.
Yeah, Catherine O'Hara is the other MVP in this movie because I know it is an ensemble, but they're the ones that anchor this whole show together because they're the ones who everybody's there to see.
Yeah.
Like the Folksmen and the other like super group
The main
of
the new Main Street Singers.
the new Main Street Singers. But like it's down to Mitch and Mickey. And
Mm,
yes, this is like they played a married couple in the Weston show. And
mhm.
the fact that like these two, and I just love Johnny and Moira. Johnny's my favorite character in Schitt's Creek because probably because it's Eugene Levy. But just how they have chemistry and like you have like the Bob Balaban who always this like pretentious little guy in all of these movies. And a lot of credit has to go to like John Michael Higgins leading the Music Street Singers, Jane Lynch, Parker Posey.
Parker Posey just randomly showing up there. They're managed by Fred Willard as well. And boy, Fred Willard just makes the most of the time that he's given and just kind of also just sheds a little insight into like the manager game and just how
Mm.
there's always an angle to pull and
Yep.
it's about spin and that's that's kind of one of the unsung things that I did love about this movie is that it's not just like talking about folk music and the intricacies of that, but it's also just talking about the music industry as a whole as
Yeah.
well and how it's not just the music industry and like record companies. It's also like the concert venue and
Mhm.
like the PBN, just the laziest way that you could just, this isn't PBS, it's PBN. And it's just so hilarious. And how like the concert venue is just telling all the people at PBN, it's like, hey, can you pull up and just like show some scenes of like our beautiful theater and how the like the guy who's like putting together the stage, he's getting so much shit because it's like this is a real street lamp, but like this thing, like this banjo is not, it's not 3D. It's just painted that way. What the hell is this? It's just little things like that that just make this a lot of fun and just a great look at all these different angles that like not a lot of people probably think about when it comes to commentary on the music industry.
Yeah. I love the pettiness
Oh,
when the new Main Street Singers sing one of the songs that the Folksmen were gonna play.
well, I love the shit that they were like they were talking about. It's like they're too commercial. Like, shut up. Like, honestly, like that's such I don't use this word lightly, but that's such a bitchy thing to say. And it's so hilarious though.
Folksmen are so petty, and like they're definitely like gatekeeping a lot of folk music. It's like, and like the new Main Street Singers are like that kind of band that's like completely turned into a money making act for
Mhm.
sure. Like that's what they are. They run like a machine. And John Michael Higgins, who is much more honed back in this
Mhm.
than a lot of roles that he winds up playing. This is not like really mean, biting announcer from like Pitch Perfect or just Michael McKean's partner in Best in Show. And but like I just the Folksmen, it's so funny. Like the music that they play is like that really corny kind of like fun, silly folk music songs. And like Christopher Guest's voice is just like, y'all know, and you're gonna pick it. And just like it gets like really high pitched. And then you have Harry Shearer just like dropping the
Right.
bass.
Mhm.
And which also what a strange twist at
At
the
the
end of the
end.
movie because they don't allude to that at all.
No, no. So here's one thing that I will give them a little bit
uh,
of credit for is that it does come out of left field, but they don't like overtly beat you over the head with it. And also the fact that the other two guys in the band are just like, yep, this is just who we
Yep.
are now. That's fine. So I will give it just like 2% credit for that, even though it does come out of left field and it is kind of making light of like transgender transition, but it's still it's I can't lie, it's still funny. It's just it's so random.
The sting of it that he still sings with his really deep
Super
voice.
low voice, yeah.
But this is just a delightful film with
Mm.
like there's very few filmmakers who could capture a tone that is so serious and awkward and funny all at the same time.
And
And
the mockumentary style that this is in is so great because other people have tried it and they just failed. And
mhm,
I don't know what it is about Christopher Guest doing this in films and NBC and like to some extent or another ABC with Abbott Elementary, but NBC was the king of the mockumentary style
mhm.
of TV shows with between The Office and Parks and Rec, and then ABC with Modern Family and Abbott Elementary as well. So I don't know how other people can't just solve the riddle that is the mockumentary style in the same way that Christopher Guest has, but
Mm.
he's just got that approach and we're all the more better for it.
Well, and he didn't make a whole lot of other movies after. Like he hasn't made a ton of movies. And as a director, and like you have For Your Consideration, which is after this, which is about like a movie award season. And then I haven't watched Mascots, which was a
Mm,
Netflix original that is about sports mascots, which I feel
mhm.
like eventually have to go watch that just
Yeah,
for and like it has some of his like usual suspects and stuff like that. But
right.
yeah, this is a fun one after like a really like tender, real, raw, authentic film like Once. So well,
However, the music, even though it's not as serious or quite frankly good as as the music in Once, I still enjoyed it.
yeah.
It's still got a pep to its step and it's just so funny because these three groups just represent just wildly different styles within the folk genre. And but when they all get together and they sing A Mighty Wind, isn't
Yes.
that what like music is all about at the end of the day? It's supposed to like,
Mhm.
you know, something that you share with other
Bring us
people.
together.
And that scene, I couldn't help but smile the whole time watching
Mhm.
when they were performing A Mighty Wind together.
Absolutely. It's such a wonderful moment that all comes together in the end. And this is just such a fun movie with so much heart and charm to it. And
Mhm.
you know, I am I'm a huge fan of Christopher Guest and his style of comedy. And this is like a close second to
Mm.
Best in Show in terms of those. And then them as performers, like if you haven't seen Spinal Tap, the heavy metal version of this, watch that. It's one of the
Right.
funniest movies. It's just nonstop
Mhm.
hilarious. Mike, thank you so much for coming on and chatting movies with me as always.
Thank you, Shane. I appreciate everything that you're doing, and I appreciate you letting me come on and pick weird, out of place movies for you to talk about.
We love to see it. And next week, when Luke is back, we will be talking about a double dose of Brian De Palma with Body Double and Dress to Kill. And next month, we're getting a little bit Christmassy as Mike has picked Tokyo Godfathers, and then I could not resist to pick another Satoshi Kon film. So we're watching Perfect Blue, which is definitely not about Christmas and also very dark. But we'll have an interesting conversation about it.
I mean,
So
blue is a wintry shade, right? So that's like kind of Christmassy.
let's go with it.
Yeah, sure.
And please make sure to like, comment, and share this episode. Let us know what your favorite mockumentary is, whether it's on television or in film. And what are some of your favorite films that feature music, whether it's a musical or just part of it? And make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPDM Crew Podcasting Network is full of a lot of great content about movies and television and sports and physical media and comics and so many other fun things in music. So we have plenty of content, plenty of great things. And if you like our logo, go check out HiFlyer Creative. They do some good work. And the most important thing, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.